Welcome to another episode of Little Talks, your weekly dose of marketing news and insights from Littlefield Agency.
Welcome back to another edition of Little Talks with Littlefield Agency. I'm Sam Littlefield. With me is
Roop.
It's nice. It's a happy Tuesday. It is Mardi Gras. Happy Mardi Gras.
Is that now? Is that happening?
Where are our beads? How did we just think of this?
You know what happened? We had the baby
We've been
cake.
sitting here for 20 minutes talking about housekeeping items, and this just dawned on us.
That baby cake rolled out yesterday. We do it every year.
Who got the baby? Kenny.
Kenny got it like on first bite, ruined it for the rest of the day. Usually all day long you're waiting on someone to get the baby.
Last year, I literally had like 5 pieces trying to get the baby.
Yeah.
I did get it eventually at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Claude does love king cake.
Yeah.
Very anticlimactic this year.
Yeah. No, well, there's one more. We got 2 cakes this year, but I don't think the second one has really been devoured much.
Oh, there's another baby in the other one?
I think there's 2 babies.
I did not know
I'm
that.
gonna go
So maybe
for
the
that one.
suspense continues. Anyway, happy Mardi Gras. Great day. My son had a really cute Mardi Gras parade. We decorated his bike last night. He got to wear either a green, purple, or yellow shirt. He wore a green master shirt. And then they do this parade in the gym. It was pouring rain in Tulsa this morning. It was in the gym. And they just go at like 0.02 miles per hour because there's 100 kids.
Is he throwing
just going
beads
around
into the crowd?
Yeah, so the t-shirts with beads. If you're at the standstill, they give to the kids. And in the crowd were parents and then some of the older kids from the big school. And he thought it was awesome. I got some good cheese picks. But what are you doing? Are you doing anything tonight? Are you celebrating?
No.
I think Tara and I usually have a standing tradition. We go to Cafe Au Lait and have a margarita.
That's nice.
Yeah, I know, right? That'd be good.
Cafe Au Lait. Well, you could go.
Because tomorrow we have to fast. It's kind of the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
Catholic
I forget
thing.
I have to.
I feel like you should go to Nola's.
I bet that place is nuts tonight.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
I can guarantee it.
It's always nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea though.
You want to know something I found out about myself?
What's that?
I got my 23andMe back.
Oh my God.
I am like 98.5% Irish.
I could have told you that without the 23andMe.
I've grown up thinking
You and
I
me.
was English or German or some such. I'm Irish.
We got to celebrate for
Steve Roop.
Right.
Oh,
my
Roop.
people. But you want to know the irony is I'm so burned out on Kilkenny. I never want to go
Now,
there.
what about your Quigs?
Quigley's.
Quig? Yeah,
Bishop Quigley's.
that's a little Irish, I guess.
It's very Irish.
Okay.
I would say so.
It is an
Quigley's?
Irish pub, buddy.
Yeah. I got to learn about this.
Quigley's
It's
is
new.
the most Irish thing
I got to
I've ever
reconnect with my people.
Dude, they have
Yeah.
cottage pie, fish and chips, and Guinness. That is about as
that's
Irish
pretty
as you get.
And
That's
you
your
can also order
98%.
curry, which is just like
I always get the burger.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're Irish given how tan you are.
Right. Oh, man.
Tara's, I think,
rough.
like 99% Irish. She didn't get very tan either. But
Don't
it's
make-
okay.
don't make me-
Claude's 99% Italian. You get very tan.
no. I'm like 30% Italian and mostly Irish.
Really?
Oh.
Also,
My last name's
Roop,
Kelly.
Yeah, I guess that's true. O'Kelly. O'Kelly,
Yeah.
Roop.
Yeah.
Tara's maiden name was O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Crazy. Actually, O'Sullivan, but while we're talking the whole Irish thing.
Yeah.
Claude, you looked super tan last week.
Oh yeah.
I texted,
That was
Roop
chemi-
texted me a
chemically
picture,
induced.
and it's like the whole crew. Claude, I'm like, Claude
I looked
just
like
go
I
to
had
the
literally
beach.
gone to the Bahamas. Yeah, I was
Not a bad way.
self-tanning. I self-tanned. I was trying out a new
gotcha.
one, and
It looks good.
It looked great.
Yeah, no,
we'll
totally.
forever be doing that. Yeah, yeah. I was like really tan.
Claude, are you doing anything for Mardi Gras tonight? In Jackson?
I'll probably feast.
Ooh,
I
love it.
usually
You have to.
feast and go crazy.
I have a haircut after this. It's right by a Chick-fil-A, and I was like, I got to indulge because tomorrow I'm literally not eating.
You're not supposed to.
Happy Mardi Gras. We got a couple of housekeeping updates. We have 2 different OSU clubs in here. We have one OSU IT club is with us right now in the agency.
Over in presentation.
We have the OSU Advertising Club is here on Thursday. They usually visit every year, which is great. So to the OSU clubs, we are excited to have you here at the agency. They always kind of bring a new hop to my step those days they're in. Their energy is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
What would you do to go back to college, Claude?
I miss it a lot.
It was a good time.
I wish I was still in it. I
Yeah.
thought that since I got out.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Best time of my life.
Best time ever. Best 4 years in the whole entire world. So, and then we just got a lot going on. Last week we had a crew at H.E. Williams. We had a crew up in Moundridge at Grasshopper. AU Solutions. We're doing a ton of stuff with them right now. We got a big meeting on Thursday with their team with some really cool creative stuff. So, 'tis the season for very, very busy times, which we love. But a lot of cool things happening personally and happening on the work front. And today we have a great topic for you, Claude. Awesome. We are calling this, Roop's going to lead this one, A/B testing and optimization for B2B email. Very timely.
Yeah, this is, we hear a lot about this topic, or have in the past, from our friend Jay Schwedelton.
Love Jay.
He's
the email guru.
Constantly testing, constantly optimizing, has a massive email empire. We learn a lot from him. And I think we've touched on A/B testing before, but there's been some things that have changed in the last probably 6 months. I thought it would be good to kind of touch it again.
So much has changed. We're going to get a little heated here in a little bit because and it's the three of us. It's not just Roop and I. We're amped up on some of the changes.
Not just
happening.
me for
but
once.
let's talk with key elements for testing.
Yeah. So when you're testing B2B emails, or really any emails, what you're looking for is a controlled one-to-one thing you're testing. So you can't test multiple things. You can't do the subject line and an image in the email and test both those things, because that's not a real test. You have to test one thing at a time.
Great point.
So you really know what you're up to. So the easiest one, and the thing people tend to and should be testing the most, is your subject line. If people don't open the email, they can't read it, and the subject line is really your doorway into that email. How engaging or how inquisitive is that subject line in a way that makes people want to open it? Test the subject lines, test the tone, test how you call people out in it, emojis, all those sorts of things are fun to test.
Here's kind of a fun litmus test. Speaking of tests, different kind of test.
Different test.
Let's say you wake up in the morning, don't go to your phone, get to work, go on your desktop, look at all the emails, take a screenshot or just analyze them, and look at all the bad subject lines. I mean, there's some really bad ones out there. There's some really good ones. There really are. But go through line by line, and we call it the hook, right? What is that hook, that enticement that is going to just make you click?
It's going to bring you in.
I mean, there's something to that. A lot of people, I'm going to bang out a subject line. No, be very thoughtful about your subject lines.
And by the way, if you're seeing some bad subject lines, that could be somebody testing.
100%.
To be fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
To be fair,
that's
could
a very
be a test.
good point.
So yeah, test these things one at a time. Subject lines is a good one. There's a lot of variety and different things you can test within that. Beyond that, you look at preview text. That's that little text that shows up underneath your subject line on some email clients. Emojis in that, questions or continuing the conversation that began in the subject line is a good thing to do there. Then once you're inside the email, you can test things like headlines and copy and images and CTA placement. Do you put that at the bottom of the email, where most people do? You throw it to the top.
Yep.
A lot of people won't scroll to the bottom, so maybe it makes sense to be at the top. You don't know until you test. And there's some kind of best practices, but that's kind of in general. You need to test for your audience and the people that you're sending to in the industry that you're in.
And we'll give you an example. So think of a subject line, right? It might be, you might lead with a fire emoji, and it's in parentheses, webinar, 5 tips to get more cut out of your lawn. What a terrible subject line by me.
I was watching you formulate that one in real time.
I'm firing from the hip here. But then you could do one without an emoji, without the parentheses, and it's just webinar 5 tips to better cut your lawn, right? Test those. You'll see some interesting differentiations within those. Let's talk about you brought this.
There's one last thing to test.
Uh-huh.
Before we get into the thing we want to complain about.
Well, but I want to continue though.
Okay,
you
good.
first.
Yeah, the other thing that you can test is the time you send. So a lot of times, I think people think it's just let's just get it out, get it done. Test the day of the week that you send.
Great point.
Test the time of day that you send.
Absolutely.
Some audiences, in particular in the B2B world, are early risers. They're getting up and they're getting an early start to the day. So
I have a 7:32 a.m. email.
Can you get that email in front of them before they start the day, or are they kind of occupied in the beginning? You need to send it at the end of the day when they're done, when they're just kind of winding down. So test your time of day, test the day of the week.
And you brought up call to actions.
Yes.
As you get into the email, and I presented on this a couple of months ago to a group of local realtors here that obviously rely heavily on email marketing. And I forget which company it was, some furniture company. I took a screen recording, right? And their subject line was good. I clicked into it, and then I'm on my iPhone, and you're scrolling. Give us one thing to focus on, right? And make that call to action clear and concise, and boom. We see so many brands. Oh, it's an email. I got to get 400 things in there. No, you don't. No, your email has one purpose, and that is to get them to click and get them to your website. We see so many brands. Hey, we have 15% off this, and also here's a news story, and then here's something else. And by the way, did you see this last week's newsletter?
It looks like a mini web page.
It's a mini web page.
Mini web page. And honestly, if you internally are having some pushback on whether you should go that route of the mini web page or a single focused brand email, there's a good test. Pick your one important message, let that be one side, and then pick your kind of nasty long web page email, let that be the other one.
Now can we tee off?
Yeah, the next section we're going to talk about is measurement. So let me lead into it real quick. You're going to be measuring things like open rates, click-through rates, conversions, unsubscribe rates, your test outcomes. That's all pretty boilerplate stuff. But I wanted to note measurement challenges that have arisen in the last probably 6 months.
Yeah, within the last 6 months.
In particular, our friends at Apple.
God, killing me.
Yep. So Apple has, if you have updated the latest iOS,
which most of you probably have
at this point, you probably have. Claudia finally did last week.
Yeah, it was
what
not
iPhone
in
number
my
are you
control.
on iPhone?
I have like a 14.
Oh,
but I just
like a 9.
No.
Okay, you had a 14. He was bashing you earlier. That's why
It's because it's like broken.
Oh,
it's got problems.
Okay, let's hear Claude's stance on this. This is interesting.
Yeah, so you updated. What did you think of the new Apple Mail?
I don't like it. I don't like that it has too many things going on. I don't like that there's too many things on my screen because they have icons now. I don't need an icon.
You don't want it. There's not enough room for it, is it?
Not enough room, and the tabs are just too much.
The tabs are too much. I totally agree. Jay, speaking of Jay Schwedelson, teased this at Inbound in September. I was like, oh, that'll be interesting when that. No, it's a freaking mess. The preview text is a jumble.
Oh, yeah, that
It could be, 3/4 down in the email, and it's totally irrelevant to what your actual email is. It's a bunch of hoopla.
There's often an AI summary that is even more confusing than the email itself.
Well, and an aside, we were talking about text messages earlier, and you get a preview text, and it's like totally off. And we were giving weird examples earlier, but anywho, I'm not liking it.
It's not great. And I think when we heard,
and I realize it's early.
When we heard this tab system was coming out, we kind of likened it to how Google handles tabs, which looks genius now by comparison. Like I don't love the Google tabs, but they make sense to me. Apple's did not make sense. And if you're like me and you're kind of OCD about having unread emails, I like to have a 0 unread inbox.
I do as well.
I was for a week or two just tapping through those tabs to knock out promotions and knock out primaries, knock it all out, and I hated it. And it turned out I wasn't alone. There's a pretty big opinion on the internet that this was a flop. And so a lot of people are getting away from the tab and going back to
just one
the regular
big
list. Yeah,
and I'm about to because there was something in my promotional inbox the other day that absolutely should have been in my primary. It's tricky.
It's not fully baked yet. That's what happened. But why are we talking about this during measurement? Well, we just want to complain about Apple Mail for a minute and get it off our chest.
But it leads to.
But the other thing that they've done, if you're a marketer, is any email you send to that goes to a Mac Mail, a client, which is about 50% of email clients that are in use, that is reported back as an open, whether that user opened it or not. So that you can kind of see the problem there on inflated numbers and bad numbers.
Yeah.
And different email platforms are handling it differently. HubSpot, for example, we use HubSpot, and our clients use HubSpot, has tried to come up with a kind of a formula that kind of takes a percentage that they know are Apple, and then the percentage of the people that did open it and apply that to the Apple, and they come up with it's not been great.
Yeah.
I saw Constant Contact is just saying, hey, we're just going to report all of them as open, so just get ready for higher open rates.
That sounds scientific.
Yeah, so you could have gone from, say, a 20% open rate to all of a sudden a 50% open rate.
Yeah.
That's not real. So they're beyond just kind of the user experience in your inbox, they're also kind of screwing with the metrics in the end. So that's a whole other thing on your metrics. But you want to really kind of take the metrics, I think, out of the email and start looking at things like if you ask someone to click that single focus CTA in the email, what did that pages or that
what did that yield?
What did that destination's traffic look like?
Yeah.
How many conversions did you get that the source was email, right? So like those are things we can still kind of measure and improve. But open rates and click rates, they're getting tougher and tougher.
What we call soft metrics, right?
Yeah.
The end goal is, okay, hey Sam, if my open rate was 45%, which is
crazy,
severely inflated and crazy, but how many customers did we convert, right? I mean, that's the end all be all of our whole program and what your agency and what your internal team should obviously be focused on. But we also look at we talked about audience, or we have not talked about audience segmentation yet. Give us your thoughts there, and I'd like to share a point of view as well.
So audience segmentation is when you have, say, 100,000 emails, and you don't always send all 100,000, treat all people the same, because they're not. So if you have 100,000 people in your inbox, there's a million different ways to segment them out by location, by title, if you have that information, by industry, which is probably most particular and specific to you. So if you have half the people that are in your inbox are commercial and half the people in your inbox are consumer, you can also segment that way.
Totally.
But the reason you segment is the more specific that audience is and the more tailored that message is to that audience, the better results you are going to get. So you really don't want to just kind of mass send in general. You don't want to just mass send everyone that you have in your contacts list. You want to segment that out and make some smart decisions on how you communicate with them.
Because that's where, again, it's not laziness, but it's thoroughness, right?
Yeah.
Because if you mass send the level of unengagement and then you get dinged for that, we've talked to prospects where, oh, well, hey, if I've got 100,000 people, I need to get an email to all 100,000. No, you don't. There's a method to this madness here, which leads us into automation, right? Thinking through, well, shoot, man, I've got 10 different segments, and I've got to think about this, and what's the content strategy, and
so automation tools inside an email platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact, or inside a CRM like HubSpot or Salesforce, generally have baked into them the ability for you to do A/B testing that we've discussed. They're definitely going to want you to send or to a segmented list. And they'll help kind of suggest ways you can do that. The modern ones, especially with AI baked in, they kind of start to see some patterns or trends or things that they kind of think can be a good segmentation for you. And you can test your segmentations. So if you've got different crossovers between list A and list B, test those out and see how those openings happen. Do you really know that audience in the way you think you do when you're sending to them? And the way you segment them can kind of help determine some of those results.
Absolutely. And saves you a lot of time once it's built. I mean, I look at some of the intricacies of, let's say, you and Mike and what you guys do holy moly, it's a lot. It's a lot of setup, right? It's a ton of back end and time, and but at the same time, they're very well worth the
and these tools,
eventual results.
These tools make it easier to do those things, but there's still work involved for sure.
And then as we think about it, right, like our last point in this segment is real world insights, right? Share case studies, practical lessons, successes, challenges, right? I mean, people love the authentic nature of, man, we'd struggled on this job site, and here's how going forward we will overcome said challenge. That's interesting. That's relevant to me as someone that is potentially buying your B2B product.
And we just thought we'd share a couple of the A/B test results we've had. We've tested aggressive versus passive subject lines. That's the ones that are really in your face and kind of like, if you don't read this, you're really failing your customers, versus, hey, this will help your customers inside. That's aggressive versus passive. And I would assume the aggressive is always going to win, but that's not been the case. We've had a client where aggressive was the winner, and we've had a client where passive was the winner. So not all audiences are the same. We've tested a day of the week, like a Tuesday versus a Thursday. You always kind of have a hypothesis by when you're doing a test that you think this is going to be the result. And I'd say maybe 9 times out of 10, your hypothesis is wrong. Like, no matter what logic you think is at play, it'll surprise you. And we've had tests where we've done like the time of day, and it's been dead even. So, okay, that was a test that yielded no result. It doesn't matter what time we send, AM or PM, for example.
And I think a reminder, that's great, Roop. Kind of a final thought here. You're playing the long game.
Yeah.
Okay, this is inbound. It's email marketing. It's a lot, from a content strategy to content execution. And you can't always be selling. We're always selling, but you can't always be selling. And the thing is, entertain, and then engage them, right? You're asking them to take a step. That call to action, it may not be buy our product. It might be check out this case study. Watch this how-to video. Here's your tips and tricks to something. You're establishing that thought leadership. You're leveraging that trust, that relationship virtually. And then at some point when they're ready to buy, they'll be ready to buy, hopefully, your product. Chelsea Clement this was years ago, man. It's probably pre-COVID. We had a client, didn't see the value in email marketing, or, oh, God, I don't want to, it's just noise. And she was like, well, look at Pottery Barn or West Elm. And she was like, they flood my inbox every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Am I buying a new couch every day? Absolutely not. But when I'm ready to buy a couch, who's top of mind? Pottery Barn and West Elm.
Yeah.
Again, it's just that awareness.
I always like to liken it to social media. So a brand will think nothing of posting on social media 4 or 5 times in a week, but they get really nervous about sending an email more than once a month.
Great example.
And the whole concept of that repetitious email towards a user isn't because you expect they're going to act on every email you send them, just like they don't engage with every post you make on social, but you're staying front and center of them in the inbox. You're trying to win that inbox war, just like you're trying to win the scroll feed war, right?
I like that.
So you can't participate in the war if you're not sending soldiers to battle, and that's what those emails are.
Wow, Professor. Okay.
That's crazy.
Every week.
Yeah, mic drop.
All right, Roop, just for those not watching, we have dropped the mic. That's a good way to, win the inbox war. That might be our subject line.
Yeah.
There you go, Claude.
That's great.
Claude.
Thank
Claude
you.
writes those for
My
us.
job's over.
Okay, thank you. This is wonderful for our listeners. Thank you as always.
Oh, and we have a guest next week.
We have a guest next week.
yeah.
We have a guest next week.
Super
Are we going to announce our
excited.
guest?
It's someone who has never been on the podcast from here inside the agency.
Male or female?
Female.
Yep. How long has she been here? Plus or minus 10 years?
Longer than me. More than 10 years.
She has.
Just a little bit longer.
I knew. We're giving you a glimpse. I know who it is. She's wonderful. It'll be very thoughtful in the sense of this topic and what she does for a living here at the agency.
Got a little AI flavor to it, too.
A little AI flavor. I love it. Well, Professor, always a pleasure.
Professor.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And go win those inbox wars. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed our little chat and found ways to grow your own marketing strategies. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on social media @Littlefield Agency.